Central, and of course, your cherished viewers. If you permit me, I would love to use the opportunity to call on the BEC students in Tamale Central and the other constituencies in Tamale that the annual free extra classes we organize for BEC students have actually started. We started yesterday, and we are doing them in 5 centers. This is the 3rd year run that we are organizing the free extra classes, and it's yielding some positive results. Remember, before the classes, the average pass within Tamale was 32.3%. And the first year when we had the classes, it jumped from that to 50.9, the second year 60.2. I'm sure there is a correlation. And I want to reiterate the point that we are not charging students for the classes.
You are not charging students for the classes?
Nobody is paying anything. We are those paying the teachers who are teaching, and it is free. It is every day. We have one at Kulikuli School, that is Methodist Primary or Presby, because there are 2 schools on the same compound. We have one at St. Peter's Primary. We have one at Sakasaka, Primary, and we have one at Zugbeli Nubiskora, and one at Salafia at Gombehene. So I want to use this opportunity to call on the students to participate in these classes, because it is good for them, it is good for everybody, and it is free, complete. At the end of the day, we shall be submitting or giving every student the mathematical set and also TNT for the purposes of the exam. So I just want to use the opportunity to inform the people or students to participate. It is important for us to understand, and I'm not too sure whether the Supreme Court says that your qualification to contest an elections is just at the beginning of you starting to file your nominations. Section 20D of PNDC Law 284 is very clear. It says, among others, that you are qualified to contest an elections on the day of the elections. So that is when you are qualified. And there's a famous case of Ndum, in which even the Supreme Court itself position was that the qualification should even, the filing should include the filing and even the vetting of the filing that, candidates have submitted. Mr. Jisukwesen actually applied for the purposes of renouncing his Canadian citizenship in December 2019. But for COVID, he would have gotten this in June 2020. And I agree with the point made by Bernard Mona on the issue of the COVID, that when everything came to a standstill. But that notwithstanding, he filed his nomination to contest for the elections on the 9th of October. And after he filed, you had an NPP group who called themselves citizens or concerned citizens of Assin North, actually petitioned the Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission, the director of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Sirbuo, indeed invited Mr. Jisukwesen to come and respond to the petitions against him, challenging his, validity of contesting the elections. And that was on the 27th, when he was slated to appear before the Electoral Commission.
Of November?
27th of November. And a day before he appeared before the Electoral Commission, he had received his renunciation certificate. That was on 26th. So when the Electoral Commission gave him the opportunity to respond to that bogus, petition against him, he provided the Electoral Commission with the certificate of renunciation, which he got a day before he appeared. So on the basis of that, the Electoral Commission had nothing to do than to allow him to contest.
Because he had the renunciation certificate.
He had, and in any case, the Section 20D of PNDC Law 284 is very clear that you are qualified to contest the election on the day of the elections. So it means that any other activity that comes before the elections, your qualification or otherwise will be determined at the time of the elections. So they didn't say that the act, that section has not said that at the time of you filing your nomination. Sometimes I find it extremely difficult to comprehend the position taken by our judiciary in this country. It is not surprising. In the same country where the judiciary says that your birth certificate is not a proof of your citizenship, except a document which you procured with the birth certificate. So I am not surprised, in as much as the reason why I'm not worried about this is that, once again, the people of Assin North are having another opportunity to prove to not just the government but the judiciary that their preferred choice and the decision they made in the 2020 elections was to elect Honorable Jesse Kwesen as their representatives, it is important for us to understand one thing, and I want to speak directly to the people of Assin North. And if they are watching, I want to tell you that this government hates you. The NPP government hates you. They do not like you. If they like you, they wouldn't deny you the opportunity to be represented. You elected Honorable Jesse Kwesen. He contested with the other candidates. And you knew the kind of person you wanted to represent you. You went in there, some of you had sleepless night. You elected him to serve your interest. You elected him to represent you in Parliament. You elected him to file questions for those questions to be addressed for the good of the people of Assin North. President Nana Addo and the NPP deliberately denied you that opportunity.
It cannot be the Supreme Court.
No.
The Supreme Court did an interpretation of the Constitution.
No, I'm coming to that. I'm saying that...
Yeah, but it's not representative of what you're saying.
I'll come to that.
No, it is not representative. Because right now we have an outcome of the Supreme Court.
I'm talking about...
And there's a whole ruling.
I'm talking about events leading to the final decision. Mr. Jesse Kwesen, this government took him to court. This government took him to court.
An individual,
please,
within the structure of the law.
I'm saying that this government, it was very clear that this government wanted him out, and they did so because of the parochial interest of ensuring that the hung nature of Parliament was not disadvantageous to the outrageous policy decisions of this government. They denied you the opportunity to be represented. Honorable Jesse Kwesen was still the member of Parliament, but he was barred from coming to Parliament to represent your interests over a year. Within that time, when he was denied to represent you, I filed questions for and on behalf of the people of Tamale Central. My other colleagues filed questions for and on behalf of the constituents they represent.
What's your point with this?
Can I finish?
No, but we're speaking to the ruling, the judgment. So the way you are going about, that's why.
No, how am I going about it? It's important.
Okay,
that I put things in context. So this government hates you. And I'm saying this for a reason. They denied you representation. At a time when we were filing questions for and on behalf of the constituents we represent in Parliament, you didn't have that opportunity. At the time, they were old women, old men, young women, kids, babies who were struggling, water problems, electricity, challenges. You didn't have a voice. It isn't that the person you elected didn't want to speak for you. He desperately wanted to make the case for the good of the people of Assin North. Yet this government denied him that opportunity to do so. Now today, they will come with bulldozers to construct your roads. And we have heard them say that, look, all those projects we are going in a desperate move to execute, we had them on the pipeline. You didn't know that those projects were on the pipeline. Don't allow them to take you as if you are a bunch of idiots. You are not. You are smarter than this government. Demonstrate to this government that you have not forgiven them for the denial of representation. You have not forgiven them for the denial of a person who was elected by you to serve your interests. Show them in that election. They would come attempting to buy your consciences with money. We have seen that at several constituencies. They will come to give money, and I have heard they have started giving loans to young people in the constituency. Some of the areas, I am answering your question, some of the areas that we have had by elections, they started executing projects. And the moment they got the person they want to be elected, those projects have been abandoned. Don't allow this government to do that to you. Now, on the basis of the decision of the Supreme Court.
On the basis of what you said, how is it related to my question?
It has everything to do with it. It has to do with Honorable Kwesen. It has to do with Assin North. It has to do with the wicked and desperate attempt by this government to deny them representation. I think
and how is that? It was an individual who took the case.
This government was particularly interested. This government was profoundly interested by the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General. So you cannot tell me it was just an individual who took the gentleman to court.
Well, as far as in the eyes of the law, it was an individual.
Well, in the eyes of rational human beings. And by the way, when we said that laws is not about human beings, any law that doesn't go in line with morality and the feelings and the positions of the societies in which the laws are made cease to be a law. Look, the Nuremberg trial. Those who murdered barbarously 6 million Jews, those who murdered barbarously 6 million Jews, when they appeared before the Nuremberg trial, their justification was that at the time when they were doing that, it was acceptable by the Nazi law. So laws are made to suit the interests of people who made those laws. In this country,
how are you equating the Holocaust to this? I
am saying that it was a barbarous murder.
Now,
but those people who did that, their justification was that.
Let's take an explainer from Noble Crosby Annan on the judgment in itself. When we come back, we're going to have from the Assin's, because your responses did not answer my question.
Why?
We're going to have Kingsley Amwakwabwedu. He's a legal practitioner, also with the NPP for the Assin Central constituency. So he is with the NPP Assin Central constituency. And then he also will be responding to the highlights of this judgment in itself.
Judgment released by the Supreme Court by the justices highlights the importance of timing. Amongst the key issues is the certificate of renunciation. The Supreme Court explained that there was no certificate of renunciation when he contested the election. It held that since citizenship is a matter of law and determined by regulatory mechanisms, it is not a valid legal submission that unilateral statements of renunciation of citizenship of another country be recognized as severance of allegiance from the other country. Now, although James Gyakye Quayson agreed to receiving the certificate of renunciation in November 2020, the court reiterates that the qualification of holding only Ghanaian citizenship must be present at the time of nomination and not any date thereafter. In this case, by 9th October 2020. Now, since the first defendant, James Gyakye Quayson, had not received his certificate of renunciation, then he was not qualified to be a member of parliament at the time he filed his nomination papers, and at the time he stood for the elections, plus the time he was declared as elected member of parliament, because he owed allegiance to another country as at 9th October 2020, the date when he should have satisfied the qualification criteria. Therefore, without the certificate, he still owed allegiance to Canada when he was contesting. To those whose argument was based on the Electoral Commission admitting him, the court says, upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94(2)(a) of the Constitution, the decision of the second defendant, the Electoral Commission, to permit the first defendant, James Gyakye Quayson, to contest the parliamentary elections in the Assin North constituency when he had not shown evidence of the cancellation of a citizenship of Canada, is an act that is inconsistent with and violates Article 94(2) of the Constitution of Ghana. Now, third, upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94(2)(a) of the Constitution, the election of the first defendant, James Gyakye Quayson, as a member of parliament for Assin North constituency was unconstitutional. His swearing-in was equally declared to be unconstitutional, with Parliament ordered to expunge his name from the records.